Hey guys, it's Desi. I'm here for another virtual huddle, little talk we're gonna do. I miss you guys so much, and I'm still having a hard time adjusting to all this going on and just realizing that we're not gonna be in that press box all together for a while. That press box is really special to me, so I just encourage you guys to continue when you guys get back onto campus, just to cherish that press box, because you never know when it might be your last time up there. So today I'm going to just talk a little bit about my testimony. And when I was sitting down thinking about what am I going to talk about this week, I was trying to figure out if I wanted to do a talk or my testimony or something in the middle or whatever. And I started to get really stressed out because I was like, I can't share my testimony because I'm still dealing with so many struggles that I haven't come out on the other side with, and I felt like I wasn't in a place and that it would be hypocritical to share and to talk about, God and what he's done in my life. And then I had to reel it in for a second and be like, wait, that's the complete opposite. And I think people need to share their testimony more so while they're still in their brokenness, because oftentimes I see so many people share their testimony as a beginning and an end. I was going through this and God brought me out of it, and yeah, those are great testimonies, but I think it's important to share when you're going through things too, because it feels so much better when you can talk to somebody and realize that they're going through something too. And so I realized that I needed to share my story, things that have happened to me in my past, but things I'm also going through right now, and a little bit of in between all over the place. So many things have happened in my life, and it's a roller coaster of a story, but I really wanted to share it before my time at McDaniel ended, and because I didn't get to share it while I was there, I figured I could kind of share it now, and that I really hope it brings some of you guys some comfort to know that God will bring you out of these things, even from somebody who's still going through things. So I'm going to start at the beginning and just talk, and you guys know me, I'm dorky and I'm ridiculous, and I'll probably misspeak, and I'm not as well spoken, but Ben says one of the best things I do is talk, so we're just going to talk and see what happens. I grew up as a church kid. I went to, a Baptist church with my family every Sunday. I was there multiple times a week, running around, doing choir, singing in the church kids choir. I just grew up that way, and that's what I knew. And then as I started getting older, we started to kind of drift away from the church a little bit, and I started to do soccer on Sundays, and we just kind of stopped going to church because we just disagreed with some of the things going on. And so then I got to a point where I believed in God, but I wasn't really doing anything with it for a couple years of my life. So probably from, end of elementary school, beginning of middle school, all the way up until 10th or 11th grade in high school. I wasn't really doing anything with my faith. I just grew up as a church kid when I was little, and so, that's what I knew, the Bible verses and the songs and the Veggie Tales, and that was just what I grew up on. So eventually I got farther and farther away from God, and I started to just focus on other things. And because I think as being a church kid, sometimes it's hard to really develop a personal relationship with God, especially when, I was baptized so young, and I understood what it was, and I made that choice myself. But you're different when you're 8 years old versus a teenager. So many things can happen and so many things can change, and the personal relationship with God can just be so much different when you're 6, 7, 8 to when you're really starting to go through real life. At least it's what it seemed to me. So fast forward to high school, and I was into soccer all day, every day. I played club soccer. I played on 2 club teams at one time. I played high school. It was just all soccer all the time. Instead of Sundays at church, it was Sundays 45 minutes away at club soccer practice, and I was just doing everything I could to work really hard at that, and I started to become kind of obsessed with the idea of success, just because I was playing at such a competitive level. And I don't play soccer anymore, but I always like to talk about this because this is the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and sometimes I think people can forget that I'm an athlete at heart, and I always will be. And I miss soccer every day of my life, and I always will. And also, the question comes up, like, do you regret not playing in college? And sometimes the answer is yes, because I could have played in college if I wanted to, and sometimes I think I really should have, because I really enjoyed soccer and I really put a lot of work into it, and it was really starting to pay off the older I got. But I just got burnt out, and I decided that I didn't want to play. But at the same time, even though I do regret not playing in college sometimes, I also look at it the other way, that I probably wouldn't be at McDaniel if I decided to play college soccer. Who knows who I would have met, if I would have met any of you guys, if I would have met Ben. Who knows? And you can't live like that. So at the end of the day, no, I don't regret it. But do I miss it? Yeah. So back to kind of my soccer life. I was really competitive. I was just really into it. My senior year of high school, we were really making a good playoff run. I was getting all the playing time. I felt like all the hard work was really finally paying off. I got written about in the paper. I was on top of the world. It was always, 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 when can I get to soccer practice? When's game day? How good can I do? How many congratulations can I get after the game? I was just obsessed with it. And I remember coming up to that point, I was just obsessed with playing time, obsessed with, earning the time on the field. And I remember one time crying to my parents because I had been pulled up to varsity just to be an extra sub in the playoffs when I was younger. And I didn't get to set a single foot on the field for the whole game, and I wasn't used to that. And I was just crying and crying and sobbing in the car because I didn't get any playing time. And it was obviously at a point where God really wasn't my identity. It was soccer at that point, my playing time and how good I could do. But like I said, eventually that ended, and I was going back and forth if I wanted to play in college. I stopped playing club at this point because I thought I didn't want to, and then I started to have second thoughts because I was having, such an amazing season, and it came to an end. But at the end of the day, I decided not to play in college, and I had to move on. And so, all throughout this too, I was really into theater. And so if I didn't have soccer, I started really getting into theater, which is funny because if anybody knows me, I'm so dramatic, and so it is a perfect fit. But I love that too. So then it started to become, what roles can I get? What accreditation can I get? How many claps can I get? What solo can I get in the musical? I realized that the way I grew up, and because of my personality of being, a perfectionist and an achiever, that I was just learning that I had to perform for love, and I had to perform for success, and whether that's on the soccer field or on the stage or whatever. I just became a person where I thought I had to perform, and not even consciously did I realize that, but that was part of my personality that kind of came out of just what I was into. And so I was performing for validation in this, and so soon all of this ends because high school's over and I'm not doing theater and I'm not doing soccer. And at this point I had been going back to church, and I started, to understand what a personal relationship with God was, but I still was in the early stages of really learning it. And just to give you a picture of kind of where, between 10th and 12th grade, where I was at, I remember in 11th grade, I was going through a really hard time just with all kinds of stuff going on. And I distinctly remember, and it still hurts to remember, the car ride to school one day when I just remembered thinking, is God even real? I don't really know if he is anymore. And accepting that, not even really being scared by that, being okay with questioning that. And, be from a church kid to that. Yeah, it's a long span of time, but it's still weird to think. So eventually, throughout the next year or so, I started going back to church and realizing what God was. But stepping into church at first, after such a long time of being gone from church, I thought I didn't belong. And I was like, I don't belong around these people. These people are going to judge me. And I only went for the music. I acted like it was a concert because I loved music and I loved concerts. And the worship was good at the church. And so that's what got me there. Worship was what got me there. But eventually, after going so many times, God started to meet me there. And I started to develop that personal relationship again. Very small inklings of it, though. Not living out my faith, but just starting to redevelop and re-understand things. And so then, going away to school and not going to that church anymore, I got myself into a little bit of a pickle, because I didn't have soccer anymore. I didn't have theater anymore. I didn't have the church I was going to anymore. And I was in a relationship at the time that turned out to be extremely toxic and extremely negative. And I'm okay talking about this because God really taught me so much through this. And so I started to look for validation in my relationship, and this is all hindsight. You know, when you're in a toxic relationship or an emotionally abusive relationship, you don't always see these things. So sometimes it may be like, well, if you were treated that way, why didn't you get out of it? You don't always see it. And I say that because I know a lot of other people are in this situation, and you would never know. People would never know that I was going through this, because I was so good at, hiding it and not even realizing that it was such a bad situation. But so I was dating this guy, and it was just a really emotionally abusive relationship, and I wasn't really encouraged to be around many other people. And I listened to these things because I just craved to perform, and I craved to be validated through, just people pleasing, because I didn't have the other outlets anymore to really perform and be validated through. And so I listened, and I started to isolate myself because that's the situation I was in throughout college. So my sophomore year, I really didn't have that many friends at McDaniel, which is crazy to think about now because I'm, a social butterfly and an extrovert, and I love seeing all you guys, and it still sucks so much that I can't see all you guys right now. But it's just so weird to think that I was in such a place where I didn't really hang out with people, and I didn't really have the groups that I have now. But I wasn't encouraged to. But what I did get to go to was FCA. So thankfully, going to school was intimidating, and I had FCA to kind of lean on to work through that and get used to my new environment, and at least have those people around me to give me some kind of community, at least, even in the isolation that I didn't even realize I was really in. So eventually the relationship got even more emotionally abusive, and it got really ugly, and I really started to realize how much pain this was causing me. And eventually we broke up, and it was really unfair to me and a really bad time, and I was just so confused, and I was like, why, God? This is not the plan I thought I had. I was going to go to college, I was going to be with this guy, everything I thought was going great, and I was just so confused. But after kind of going through that pain and confusion, I saw that God was taking away everything that I was using for validation, and I was left with, it felt like nothing at that point. So then when I was really left with nothing, I had FCA to fall back on. And quickly, Ben, thank God for Ben, and his kind of friend group kind of scooped me up under their wing after they found out I was so isolated and so alone and so confused. And a verse that really sticks out to me about this time in my life is Matthew 18:20, and it says, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I will be with them there also. And I just started sitting around a kitchen table and talking about God and talking about life and learning what it was like to have true Christian fellowship and friendship. And my life changed within a month. I really started to realize my potential and what God really had in store for me, and how I was being so held back in the story that He had planned for me. I started going to FCA camps. I went to leadership camp over New Year's 2 years ago, and that is where I fully kind of credit where I realized that I'm supposed to be in this ministry, and I'm supposed to be living fully for God, and what it means to live out your faith fully and not just be a Christian on the shelf. And so I started thriving. I became an FCA intern. I went to the leadership camps. I was doing everything I wanted to with FCA at McDaniel. I was just all in. All of a sudden I was on fire for God. It seemed like I had this busy but perfect life. I got engaged on the football field. I'm that girl. Who doesn't want to be that girl? Everything's going so great, and seemingly I was living this perfect Christian life. And yes, I have been so blessed with so many opportunities and so many cool memories and just so many cool ways that God really has worked in my life just by stripping things away and filling it with so much more. It's like, little did I know what he was going to fill all these things with these amazing people, and just giving me this story to even share about how he's worked in my life. But then, so all of this stuff is going on in my life, and I started really overbooking myself, and I was just go, go, go all the time, trying to balance schoolwork and trying to just do all these things I wanted to do, and I realized I was getting trampled by it all. And so this kind of brings me to like the current struggle I'm going through that not everybody knows. I've talked about it some, but I haven't even talked about this story in full like this before. But I've been struggling a lot with anxiety and panic attacks lately, and that may be confusing to some because, like, Desi, you're extroverted and you're not nervous or afraid of anything, and me too. Like, sometimes I would ask myself that, like, why am I struggling with this, God? And I would get even angry because I'm like, God, I had this perfect life. Like, I'm the girl that got engaged on the football field, and like, I'm planning a wedding and I'm about to graduate, and like, all this stuff is going on and everything was going perfectly. Like, why right now is this crippling anxiety and the panic attacks coming out of nowhere? And it started to make me physically sick, and I had no idea what was going on because it didn't feel like it was like instantly triggered by anything, and I just felt like, you know, I had the whole world in my hands and all this stuff in front of me. So why, God, why is this happening? And I would just, you know, pray for answers, but like, I would just be like, God, just please take this away from me. Like, I want my normal life back. And, you know, sometimes I still have those days where I get frustrated or confused, and I don't know why I'm feeling those ways. But something that I was reading in a devotional lately kind of like struck me, and it was a guy talking about how he had anxiety as well, and how he would just spend his time, you know, praying for it to go away and praying for it to go away. And what he realized was that, yes, you can still pray for it to go away, but at the end of the day, he could actually use it to grow closer with Jesus. And when he kind of accepted that he could do more with it than just pray for his struggles to go away, he really learned more about Jesus and grew closer with God, and developed a stronger prayer life, and just realized that his thorn, like it talks about Paul having a thorn, his thorn could be used to develop a better relationship, develop a better testimony, because God's power is made best in weakness. So yes, it's hard to like cope with our struggles or talk to people about them, or we all just want to be those perfect Christians, you know? But at the end of the day, we need to talk about these things, and we need to talk about our thorns, and we need to see how God can really work through us and work through our thorns for the better of others and just for the glory of Him. And that's why I kind of bring up all these different, you know, struggles I've had in my life, but also all the amazing things that God has really brought me into out of those hard situations. And it's a constant roller coaster, and I think we shouldn't think about, you know, our testimony being a beginning and an end, but a constant roller coaster, because we're going to have those hills and we're going to have those valleys. But instead of just praying for the valleys to go away, we really need to challenge ourselves to see, you know, what's our thorn and how can God work through this. And so many more doors will be open, and I'm still learning to work through this. Like, I'm still working through this, and I encourage you, you know, and just remind you that, like, I'm doing it too. So whatever you're working through, you know, your story's not over yet. The story's just begun. And so I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot of information, but I just wanted to share, and I felt obligated to share, and just to be completely honest, because I think we need more broken Christians to share. And I love you guys so much, and thank you so much for taking you know, a couple minutes out of your day to listen to kind of how God's worked in my life. And He's gonna keep working. I know it, and we're all gonna do this together. Whatever struggles and whatever thorns we may have, God's gonna bring you out of it. And so we will see you guys next week, and I hope you have a great week. And God on 3, squad on 6. 1, 2, 3, God. 4, 5, 6, squad.